All right, welcome back. My name's Kyle Denker, and today we are going to be making an array game. And this game isn't going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to tell you that right now. It's just going to be a game to really learn how arrays work. Now, arrays are super important, and it's a way to store a lot of information. And we're storing it in kind of a list. But arrays have a set size, so we can't change them. So it's kind of saying if we're going to have a list of 5 things, we're only going to have 5 things. So we're going to make a very simple game. The way that this particular game is going to be working is we are going to have, and I'm going to kind of do this here at the bottom. And if we have these 5 different wells, we can put in different sets of coins. So if I put in 5 different wells here, I'm going to randomly select different values that go into these. And what's going to happen here is if I select to take out one of these wells, I'll take out that one out of that well and one to the left or the right of it if it has it. And what's going to happen here is, like, let's say I select what happens here in the second well. Well, I'll take one from that well, and I'll take one from the one before it, which would make that 3, and the one after it, which would make it a 1, and I would score 3 points because I was able to select 3. We're going to keep on going with this game until there is nothing left and anything, and then we'll restart it. Now, the way we're going to play this is very text-based, so we're going to be making everything in our main method today, and we're just going to see how this particular piece goes. Now, if you have questions on how the game is played, just let me know, and we'll be more happy to try to get that squared away in the comments. But I think by the end of this, you should see how it goes. But the idea today is to really understand how arrays work. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to delete that because that's causing errors. So this is my very first time using the dark theme. We'll see how this goes. I don't know how long I'm going to keep this dark theme going on, but we're going to try this out. So since this is our first time using arrays, we want to make sure that we end up having an integer array. So the way we make arrays is we type in what type of value, what type of variable that we want to use, followed by brackets. In this case, we're going to be using integers because we want to store the number of tokens or coins that are in that particular pot. And we're going to call this one board. So that's going to be that entire piece there. Now, the first thing is to make all those different pots or different wells of coins, we're going to have to create a new int here and with the brackets, but this time we're going to be typing in the size of how many pots we want. In this case, we do want 5, so we'll keep track of that. The next thing that we're going to probably want is a way to keep the player's 1 score, and that's going to be equal to 0, and the player 2 score, which is also equal to 0, and maybe a variable that equals how many turns we have, and one more with the pieces we have left, and that's going to also be equal to 0. Great. So I think these are all the variables that we're going to be using today. So the very first thing we want to do is we want to set up the board. So we do need to create a random number. We're going to create a random number between 0 and 9. So and the start of the board, one of the wells could start off with 0. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to use a for loop. Now the for loop has a beginning at 0. We're going to do I is less than. And if we happen to change the board's length later, we're going to do board.length. And this way, if we change it to 5, from 5 to 10 or 15, the game will automatically be able to handle this, and we don't have to do any extra coding. So we're going to come here and say board length, and then we're going to do board I. So board I is how you're going to reference each well. So if we actually do board 0, this would be the first one, and it will go from 0 to 4. Now, I know you've seen arrays before and other things, but we just want to try to be able to use them in a more dynamic way today. So we're going to be taking a look here at board, and we're going to take that and we're going to create a random number. So to use this, we do math.random, and we're going to multiply it by 10. Now, we have 10 options. Those options want to be 0 to 9, so those are 10. Math.random generates a number between 0 and 1, not including 1. So when you multiply that out, that will generate a number between 0 and 9.99999, and that's okay. What we're going to do is we're going to be using casting here, and we're going to cast this down to we're going to basically round it down, is what casting does, is it rounds down to the nearest integer. So we're going to get 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and that's what's going to go on there. After we generate how many of these we're going to make in that particular well, we want to make sure pieces left gets added to how many we just created. So we see how many that are there, then we add the pieces left to that using board I. So this one sets it, this one reads it, and adds it to pieces. So once we are set up, we can actually start with our main game. So this is our main game, and we're going to do while pieces left is not equal to 0. Actually, yeah, let's do greater than 0. So if it is greater than 0, then what we're going to do is we're going to play the game. So actually, yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to play the game. Now, the first thing we need to do is we need to print out whose turn it is, what the score is, and the board. This way we know which one we're going to pick. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to do system.out.println. We're going to do player1 colon, and we're going to print out the player1 score. We're going to do another system.out.println player2 with the player2 score. Now, the way we're going to determine whose turn it is, we're going to write turn in here, and we're going to use a little math trick to figure whose turn it is. If it's even, it's player 1's turn. If it's odd, it's player 2's turn. So what we're going to do this is we're going to do turn plus 1. I'm sorry, turn mod 2 plus 1. Now what modulus does is it checks out to see if divides it by 2 and looks at whatever the remainder is. So the remainder is either going to be 0 or it's going to be 1. And if it's 0, 0 plus 1 is 1. And then if it's 1, 1 plus 1 is 2. And we're good to go. So now we want to print out the board. And in this particular example, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new method to do this. So we're going to do public static void print board, and we're going to take in an array. We'll call that B. Now when you do this, you're actually not making a new copy like you would pass in a normal variable. In fact, you're doing the same one. So if any changes we make in B inside this method also change the board. So we do have to be a little careful when doing that. But what we're going to do is we're going to print out the labels. So we're going to do system.out.println, and we're going to print out 1. I'm going to put a space and a colon, a space, and I'm going to keep on doing like this all the way down. And I should have done that in parentheses. That was my mistake. Those are the labels there. And then I'm going to do it again here. But I'm just going to put a little dash line there just to separate those a little bit. And then I'm going to run through a for loop. Again, I'm going to be using board.length. I'm sorry, not board, but B this time, because this way I can figure out and make it a little bit dynamic. Now, if I was doing this, I should have made that dynamic as well, but unfortunately that did not happen. So we're going to do system.out.println. I'm going to be BI, and I'm going to put 2 spaces in between. Is it 2 or 3? 3. And the reason why I need to do 3 spaces is I have 3 spaces under each number. So I have a space, align another space. So if I put 3 spaces there, it will line up perfectly. So just to make sure that we're doing this correctly, we're going to do print board, and I'm going to put board in there. And then I'm going to say pieces left is equal to 0. This way the loop doesn't keep on looping over and over and over as I test this. So I'm going to run it, make sure I see it. Uh-oh, I'm getting everything on one line. I just need to do system.out.print, and I will also do system.out.println at the end. This way we get everything on its own line. Perfect. So I run this again. I see all my numbers are in order. If I keep on running it, I see it change. This is fantastic. I'm getting a brand new board every single time I play. So let's play this game off a little bit. Now, one thing I am missing is how am I accepting input? Well, I'm going to use scanners. So I'm going to call my scanner scan and equals a new scanner, system.in. And I do have an error there that just means I need to import it. But if I just do int slot, because that's the one I want, equals scan.nextInt, it will automatically import for me. Great. So when I am asking for my slot, I'm asking for a number between 1 and 5. When I want to deal with the array, I want to deal with numbers 0 to 4. So when doing this, I'm asking for its slot, but I'm going to -1 from whatever their answer is because that makes sense to my computer. I'm just translating what the human says. So once we have that, we're going to have an int in here called temp points. We're going to make that 0, so we're going to add a bunch of points up in here. And then we're going to add them to my score later. So then we are going to check to see if the slot was valid. So if slot is greater than or equal to 0 and slot is less than 5, I should have done board.length to make it dynamic, then we're good to go. Otherwise, we're just going to print out that is invalid. Please try again. So now that's going to be invalid. We try again, and that's what happens. Now going forward from here, we're going to take a look at actually playing the game. So if it's a valid move, then we check to see if we can take from that particular slot. So if board slot is greater than 0, temp points minus board slot temp points, we add 1 to the points, we subtract 1 from the board, and pieces left we also subtract from. So that's if it's in the slot that we pick. If we want to pick, now we have to go to the one to the left and one to the right, but we have to be careful because if we pick slot number 1, or which would be 0 in the array, then there is nothing to the left. And we're not going to try to recycle anything. We're not going to try to go around. That's not our goal. So we're going to do here, if slot is greater than or equal to 0, slot -1, I'm sorry, then, so if slot -1, okay, and board slot -1 is greater than 0, then we're going to do temp points. Actually, we're going to do the exact same thing right here. I'm just going to copy and paste it in. But this time it's going to be slot -1. Now, this right here protects it from going out of bounds. And this right here does the check to make sure that there's actually things there. Now the next piece, we're going to actually have to check to the right. Very, very similar to this, except this is plus, and this is plus. Same with this one. But we're not checking against the left side, we're checking from the right side, which will be less than board.length. Now, once we have everybody's points, then we just need to figure out whose turn it is and put them in. So if turn mod 2 is equal to 0, that's player 1's turn, so player 1 plus equals temp points. Otherwise, player 2 plus equals temp points. And then we turn the turn by just adding 1 to it. It doesn't really matter if it turns to 0 or 1 or 0 to 1. It just means that we just need to turn to odd to even. So by adding 1, we change if it's odd or even, which is great. Once we have this, we actually have enough to play the game. The one thing that we are missing is who wins this game after we're done. So we're out of the while loop because that should eventually get down to 0 for pieces left. And we are going to check again. We're actually just going to print out everything here. So I'm going to copy this. So we're going to print out what everybody says, what's happening here. And I'm going to not print out turn. Actually, we don't even need the board. We just need those two things. So if player 1 is greater than player 2, then what we're going to do is we're going to do system out.println player 1 wins. Otherwise, else if player 2 is greater than player 1, system.out.println player 2 wins. Otherwise, system.out.println tied. So now we're left with just testing this out, making sure it works. Hopefully it does. If I plus a 1 here, didn't go out of bounds. I did get only 1 point because this is 1, and that did go down. That's perfect. It looks like the max number of points I can get is 2 by picking 2, 3, or 4. So let's pick on 4. Okay, and I saw that all those went down. This one stayed good. Let's go with number 5. Okay, and again, only this one went down. 5 was the only one that went down there. That looks pretty good. Let's look at 2, 2, and we can keep on working our way down. And our players tied. Great. And I can see that's 8-8. That looks fantastic. Let's do one more test. We'll purposely try to get player 1 to win. All right, I think I can just do 1 here on out. And player 1 wins. Perfect. I should go ahead and test out number 2, but I think that's pretty much good for this particular video. If you guys have any questions, please put them in the comments. I'll try to get to them as quickly as we can. In the next video, we are going to take this particular piece of code and we're going to convert it to a GUI, and it's going to be great. So I'll talk to you a little bit later. And